There are mutants and mages
Last Netflix
galore,
video,
but
alright?
the slow-beating heart of The Witcher is in its monsters. While some
I'm literally gonna spend the next few months just watching
familiar to you,
Netflix
they've
videos.
actually been with us, stalking through
Netflix
human
series.
stories for centuries, even millennia.
Now let's give this a watch.
Here are the very real mythologies.
So they're gonna
behind
explain
every single
each monster?
in the first
That's
half
actually
of The
pretty cool.
Witcher's first
Let's check
season
this
in
out.
order of appearance. And if you want them all, let us know by liking, sharing, and telling
Wait,
us in
I
the
want them
comments.
all. Isn't all of them? I guess there's just too many monsters in Witcher. I might go back and just replay Witcher 3. Or
Okay, so
I
you
might
know the
I might
Witcher
even start
series
from like Witcher 1 and then go to Witcher 2 and 3.
About monsters.
It's gonna
but it
take
has a
ages, though, 'cause the
Kikimora
game's so
in the
long.
first scene of the first episode.
Kikimora.
If that name's not ringing a bell, it's probably because it's a beast from
Hey.
Slavic folklore, which has been
Polan.
underrepresented in popular fiction. To start, Kikimoras are always female. They rise from stillborn children or women who died in labor, and often bear the deceased's face. In some Russian versions of the tale, Kikimora is indeed a creature of the swamp.
actually
who
never
leaves
heard
wet
Kikimora.
footprints wherever she goes. But in most, she's a purely household spirit. Occasionally a nightmarish
Hey, isn't
household
this like
spirit,
the
slipping through
painting
keyholes
for
to
sleep
squat on the
paralysis?
chest of sleepers, suffocating them.
Fuck.
In her more benign incarnations, though, she's described as more of a nuisance with a cleanliness fetish. So you can think of Kikimora as kind of a monstrous cousin to Marie Kondo?
I love this.
What? Okay. Habits
Human-animal
Earth.
hybrids are a tale as old as time. Almost every mythological
I remember
tradition
seeing that
on
in the
Earth
show.
has some variation of them. The first we see in The Witcher are Sylvans, which resemble fauns, the unpredictable woodland man-goats from Greco-Roman mythology. Although maybe they hit more like the bloodthirsty half-man, half-bovine Minotaur.
I
In
might
many
actually have to
versions
go
of
back
that
and
latter
rewatch
myth,
Witcher
the
1.
Minotaur was conceived when the insulted god
Do you guys have
Poseidon
that too? Like when a season 2 or like the next season comes out of something that you used to watch before, you go back and rewatch the whole season to like catch up with the story?
took revenge on the insulting King Minos.
I
by
do that 'cause my
cursing his
memory's
wife,
trash.
Making her fall for a real specimen of a bull. There's a lot of art on the internet about this. Ugh. It might be why Geralt goes immediately for the mom insults.
You motherfucking goat.
But lest you think that human-animal hybrids are just ancient magical things, allow me to
Dude,
introduce
Geralt
you
is
to the
just-
mysterious pig-faced lady of
Don't
Europe.
care.
Nearly simultaneously in the 1600s, in multiple places across the continent, a legend arose of a pregnant rich woman who was cursed and whose baby was born with a pig's head. The myth persisted and somehow gained the veneer of fact. As late as the 1800s, newspapers reported
What the
that
hell?
the pig-faced lady lived in London's posh Manchester Square. Goats, pigs, bulls. But what about the Witcher's
Interesting.
human-hedgehog combo? Has that ever popped up in myth? Well, because we go the extra mile here at Netflix, I looked into this and nope. I found Hans my hedgehog,
Gotta go
a
fast.
cockerel-riding, bagpipe-playing, princess-loving Brothers Grimm creation, who was a wee bit more monstrous in the Jem Henson version.
That's enough! Out!
Interesting. Oh, Striga? Okay, I know Striga.
If you've finished The Witcher, you know that the Striga is probably the scariest monster on the show, although technically she's a cursed human. And that's fitting, because they're pretty terrifying in the scant
That's like
myths about
tied in
them,
with
too.
Slavic.
According to what we have,
folklore.
the Striga is sort of a vampire prototype. Huge, almost bird-like claws, sharp fangs, and a thirst for human flesh and blood, although she can live off of animals
She's kind of
too.
like the witch from
But
Left
Strigas
4
weren't
Dead.
born that way. The unlucky number was 2. People with 2 hearts, 2 souls, 2 sets of teeth, conditions common when a pregnant woman was cursed, could become Strigas
How would you
after
have
they
2
died.
souls?
Their second self sort of took over the corpse and went on a feeding frenzy. Even though they're not so common in fiction, it's interesting how many cultures have variations on the theme. Striga's
Yep.
demonic cousins proliferated across southern and eastern Europe to unlikely places like your garden. This is the Striga, or witchweed plant, which is kind of pretty, right? But it's known for viciously penetrating the roots of a host plant and sucking out all of its nutrients.
Oh,
Scientists
what?
even make dad jokes about its rapaciousness. So whether it's the plant
Serial
or the
killer
witch
plant?
princess variety, stay away from Strigas, y'all.
Oh man. Selkie Maw?
Well, when it comes to episode 4 Selkie Maw, the showrunners of The Witcher didn't give us much info to work with. Thanks, Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich. All we hear is a pretty gripping tavern talk from a villager that includes the creature's name.
The ice cracked open and the Selkie Maw shot out. Oh, you've never seen one.
And all we see are its guts on Geralt.
Had to get it from the inside.
The name Selkie Maw in every
Interesting.
spelling we could think of doesn't return any results. But plain old Selkies are indeed notable mythological creatures of the water. In Irish, Scottish, and Icelandic
said it came from the
folklore,
ice.
Selkie is kind of an affable, shape-shifting seal. It mostly spends its time in seal-like endeavors, lounging on
It's
rocks,
just a
being
poor
cute,
seal,
etc.,
man.
but occasionally it sheds its prized skin, revealing a beautiful human underneath, and comes ashore. There's usually a lot of marriage shenanigans after this. Its use is fitting for an episode written by an Irishman. Still, a friendly seal with magical outerwear doesn't quite square with what little we know of the Selkie Maw. Like, it can swallow a witcher whole. It has swallowed a whole village whole. It possesses a cavernous mouth with
Okay.
devil's teeth. And
That's a
actually,
big
there is
seal, man.
tell of a similar creature lurking deep within Russia, about a 6 hours drive west of Moscow. The Brosno dragon. It's said to be a huge reptilian or dinosaur-like creature that inhabits the small but curiously deep waters of Lake Brosno. And just
Interesting.
like the Selkie Maw, the dragon can eat. His stories are full of him chomping down on things like invading Tatar warriors and their horses, a German aeroplane during World War II, and somehow an entire island that some Vikings were going to leave some treasure on. I don't know if this is wise without a witcher in tow, but people still look for the dragon. This is an easily chompable dog sled
It's like
team
the
searching across the frozen
Loch Ness
lake.
monster.
Toss a coin to your
A little bit.
witcher, oh valley of plenty. Whoa.
Our search for the Selkie Maw,
This
however,
guy-
has reached its successful
This guy in the
conclusion.
TV
We
series,
figured it out.
man.
Take that, Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich.
Thank you.
I actually liked him. Just walking around singing.
In the 4th episode, there's also this formidable killer insect that hunts Yennefer, Roachhound. So we started researching it. And the weirdest thing we realized is, where are all the insect monsters? Like, I mean, insects
Spiders.
and all arthropods really
I just hate
are
spiders, man.
basically already monsters in real life. So why not make them mythological ones? But maybe it's because we're not looking in the right places. Think about it. The typical Western myths that many of us learn in school usually involve mammalian or sometimes lizard-like creatures. But Asian, Pacific, and indigenous folklore often seems to use insects and spiders in their monster making. In the tales of Thailand and several New York State Native American tribes, there are monster mosquitoes as big as chickens who are capable of launching coordinated attacks on forts. The Wayana
What?
of South America have Kuluwajak, forgive the pronunciation, a two-headed caterpillar who cuts off and devours human heads.
Imagine the mosquitoes
then
like,
there's
alright
Japan.
boys, we're raiding this fort
Japanese have a
today.
giant samurai-hating spider that can turn invisible, and Omukade, a mountain-sized centipede with venom for breath. By the way, this is a real Mukade centipede, and I still find it frightening. So now you
Yeah,
know why
that's
they
just
later
disgusting,
created
man.
Mothra. So, yeah, insect
I don't know,
monsters.
insects are just...
I'm not scared. Are you scared? Run far, run fast, Jennifer.
freaking disgusting.
There's something
Doppler?
profoundly disturbing about meeting your exact twin. Wait, stop that. Which might be why the
Dude,
myth
the
of
production on
Doppelganger
this
keeps
Netflix
finding its
video,
way
what?
into our popular fiction, including in The Witcher's Doppler. True, the word doppelganger was only coined in the 18th century, but cultures as old as the ancient Egyptians believed in the Ka, a sort of spiritual facsimile replete with a person's memories and feelings that could sometimes mislead. But they can also replace you.
Wait, that was in the first season? No, it wasn't. Spoilers?
Everything you've ever done, ever debated,
Or did I
ever
forget?
dreamed
I might
is
have
in
just
our
forgotten
head
this.
now.
People from the Orkney Islands feared the Trow, sickly changeling creatures that would replace healthy human babies with their identical Trow replicas.
If you want to get
Monka S.
crazy, we can get crazy.
So it's sort of like the plot of Us. Sometimes a benign version of the doppelganger will pop up. The Norse Vardigar, for instance, was an identical you that went ahead of the real you and showed up early to all your meetings.
What?
But most of the time, they're an omen of doom.
At least
Following
I
his
wouldn't be late
election in
anyway.
1860, Abraham Lincoln allegedly saw his exact double in the mirror. The other was pale and ghastly looking. His wife believed the vision
It's like
foretold
that
his
thing with
re-election, but
Vladimir
also his
Putin,
death.
right? That he has
There is a
multiple
condition,
clones.
heutoscopy, which can cause someone to see their double at a distance.
he never
or at
ages
least you
or
better
something-
hope
something
it's
like that.
heutoscopy and not a doppelganger.
Jinn.
As hard as it is to believe while watching this, the jinn of Arabian mythology are
Isn't it just like a
surprisingly
shadow?
lot like us. I mean, sure. They are technically, according to the Quran, creatures made of smokeless fire that
Yeah.
live in an unseeable, unknowable dimension somewhere beyond our own and who are blessed with supernatural powers of shape-shifting, invisibility, and flight. But they also possess a fair share of human qualities. Like us, the jinn eat, they drink, they sleep. They fall in love or lust with each other and with humans, as made vividly clear in this pre-Islamic era poem, which isn't all that flattering for either side. And maybe most like us, they're capable of choosing between good and evil, although unfortunately many seem to end up on the dark side. Their mischief continues to the present day, because while the existence of jinn predates even the founding of Islam, belief in them is still very common in many parts of the Muslim world. Jinn
84?
can be
But damn. I didn't know it's like
in
that
many
popular of a
parts of the
thing.
Muslim world. Jinn can be
77,
annoying.
84?
In 2009, a Saudi couple somehow sued one for harassment. It was making weird noises and throwing rocks at their house. On the more serious side, the jinn are believed to be able
Okay.
to possess humans. And the psychiatric trauma
Interesting.
attributed to jinn possession is so serious that I found seemingly dozens of articles in
It must be the
legitimate
jinn,
medical
man.
journals about it. By the way, if you are ever possessed, Arabic lore suggests you go ahead and put on a necklace of fox or cat teeth to frighten the jinn away. But as with grumpy humans, maybe the best advice is to just give the jinn their space and never ever go fishing for them.
Don't judge me.
Okay, Monster Maniacs, as promised, those were all the monsters in the first half of
Wait,
The
that was
Witcher.
actually pretty
Let us
good,
know if you
though.
want us to do the rest in the comments.
Dude, they need to do all of them. Extra credit.
You may notice that Geralt spends a lot of time in bathtubs throughout the show, which
What is
raised
this?
the question,
It's,
are there
about the
bathtub
Witcher monsters.
Again, Japan comes through. The Akaname is a strange, dirty, and disgusting little goblin that licks the filth off of bathtubs. So enjoy. The Witcher's world is teeming with monsters, both the human and big pointy teeth kind. In fact,
Check
it's so
this out.
full of the latter that we couldn't cover all of them in just one pass. But you guys totally supported our last piece. Thank you so much. So, like we promised, we're back to dig up the real-world origins of the monsters in the second half of The Witcher's first season. It's monster mythology.
Alright, let's get into it. Part 2, huh?
Well, there's a tiny little problem with the first monster we see in episode 6. No one ever says its name.
Let's get on before the beast gets hungry again.
Isn't
and we
that
only
the
get a
goat
short
thing?
glimpse of this
Oh, it's not.
toothy raptor-like disembodied head. So first we'll have to solve a monster
I thought it's like half
mystery
goat, half
by going
man.
back to the Witcher books. This episode is based on Sword of Destiny's Bounds of Reason.
How many books
and
are there?
Geralt starts
Isn't there like 5 books? 6 books and 15 short stories. That's actually a lot.
that by hunting a basilisk. And just to be safe, we checked.
I don't
with
understand why
showrunner
there is
Lauren
still
Schmidt
not a
Hissrich,
Witcher movie,
who
man.
said, yes, it
Unless
is a
there is.
basilisk,
I don't think
one
there
of
is.
many subspecies that might or might not be in development. Ooh,
Nah, there
Scoop.
isn't.
Although proportions vary by the tale, the basilisk is typically portrayed as some mixture of reptile and chicken, born of a rooster's egg, yes, rooster, that was incubated by a toad, which admittedly sounds really silly. But counterpoint, isn't a T-Rex kind of a mixture of a chicken and a reptile? And like the
I
T-Rex,
guess
the basilisk is considered a king.
T-Rex
the
is just
little
a
king
big
of the serpents
chicken.
in Greek. But you can argue that its formidable arsenal of monstrous weapons makes it
Big
way
chicken?
more dangerous than these beasts and or puny dinosaurs. Like a dragon, it could breathe fire, and its hiss could kill, so could its odor. In fact, it was so very toxic that its venom was known to travel up a man's spear to kill him.
I always
and
wonder where
before
like a story of a dragon, you know, or like just monsters they come from, because there obviously has to be like a little bit of truth in it, you know. Maybe someone just saw a big bird and then like they passed it down, and like the like it became a story
he
of
rode
like a
on.
dragon.
And scholars
I
thought its
always wonder
native
where it
habitat
started.
of Libya was actually a
Like a
verdant
Loch Ness
paradise
monster,
until
like, where did that
basilisk
start?
toxins turned it into the Sahara, and we haven't even gotten to its famous death stare yet, which even rivals Geralt's. The basilisk stare was thought to be instantly fatal. Humans in antiquity went to great lengths to protect themselves from it. For instance, in Warsaw in 1587,
Hey, let's go.
the citizenry
Warszawa.
sent a convicted felon into a suspected basilisk lair wearing a suit of mirrored armor, like he
What?
was on the basilisk bomb squad
No
or
way.
something. By the way, Warsaw now has this cool basilisk statue, which we thought you might
That's
like
not
to see.
true, is it?
Aside from Geralt, who kills them pretty easily.
Next time I'm in
without the
Warsaw,
aid
I'll
of
try to
mirrors,
find it.
The basilisk did have one powerful enemy
put it in
that
the
the
vlog
dinosaurs
channel, you know?
didn't have. You may have seen it earlier. It's the weasel. Yes, despite all those instant
The
kill
weasel.
weapons, a smelly weasel could somehow take out a basilisk. Some even think that this bloody mythical rivalry originated in the real-life enmity between Cobra and Mongoose.
Ooh,
But
maybe.
whatever its origins and weaknesses, these peasants possess a certain amount of wisdom about the basilisk.
It's been an hour. Let's get on before the beast gets hungry again.
Second monster. Girika.
The Hirika is a rare creature within the world of The Witcher, and unfortunately, it's even more rare after the incident in episode 6. But it's also the first monster
Oh,
we've
man.
encountered that was created out of thin air by Witcher author Andrzej Sapkowski.
That's kind of sad.
As far
The
as I
monster
can
didn't
tell,
look
it's
like
only mentioned in
harmful or
the
anything.
Sword of Destiny, and they're
Yo,
just
Popo,
two
welcome.
times.
Hello. Welcome, my
But we
guy.
do get important information that
We're
the
just watching
Hirika is
a Witcher's Bestiary. It's just like Netflix describing
so endangered
random
that Geralt
beasts
won't
in,
accept a
Witcher.
contract on one. The show expands on that. The exceedingly rare Hirika lives in a forest. It changes from something cute to something frightening, but it's harmless if given food.
It's probably starving. Sheathe your weapons.
Oh yeah, and absolutely do not eat it.
Oh wait, it is?
That said, I'm not
Oh man, rip my bad. Yo, I forgot. I've heard that some of you are still not subscribed to the channel. What are you doing? After all these years of uploading, you're still not subscribed. Only 6% of you are subscribed. Subscribe to the channel right now. Also check out my gaming channel, Twitch and Discord. Let's go back to the video. To switch it off. Basically, I put the emotes only because there's been some like hate attacks on people's channels. And yeah, if you put it in emotes only, it changes that. Oh man, I forgot to turn it off. Rip. I think it's good now.
the only
Feel
one
good.
that sees some passing resemblance
Thank you for
between the
telling me.
show's Hirikas and the more modern form of gremlins. They're both rare creatures with giant eyes and ears that undergo some transformation that humans find terrifying. And they
Little
also have a
gremlins.
few important dietary rules. Although you'll probably never see Gizmo like this. R.I.P. Hirika.
Yo, what the hell? A dragon?
And now we get to the granddaddy of all monsters, the dragon. If you've only seen certain fantasy shows, Dracarys, an intelligent, likable dragon like Borch 3 Jackdaws may not be
Isn't
so
Dracarys
familiar
from
to
like
you.
Games
But
of
the
Thrones?
thing about the dragon is that it has arisen separately in so many cultures that it's not just one thing. In the West, the dragon is typically depicted as an evil beast, but even that doesn't mean it's been static over the course of its history. Even the Greek name has multiple meanings, serpent on its face, but trace that
Yeah, I wonder
back
where the
and you
whole
get
like legend
to
of a
see
dragon came from, you know?
clearly. And in the time of the ancient Greeks, dragons were the worst, literal enemies of the gods. Typhon fought and fell to Zeus, the worm Nidhogg gnawed on the roots of the world tree in Scandinavia, and of course, the Book of Revelations prophesied that the Christian devil would come back as a multi-headed red dragon. That didn't help the dragon's image. But when
Yikes.
spinners of tales started writing about dragons as creatures on Earth, they weren't necessarily what we associate with our familiar Western dragons. Roll a saving throw against dragon's breath! Pliny the Elder, a Roman natural historian who would influence generations, wrote about dragons
Actual
as almost
D&D
boa
players.
constrictors, killing with their powerful tails. So strangely, there's almost a millennium of accounts of dragons hunting elephants, their supposed favorite prey, that are straight out of nature documentaries. Ah, the now wary elephant and her calf moved swiftly to the depths of the river, giving the hungry dragon no other option than to seek new feeding grounds. And dragons of this era were terrified of the supposedly godly panther. You don't see that much anymore. Getting away from that early depiction seemed difficult. Beowulf's famous dragon flies and breathes fire and hoards treasure like future dragons would, but it's also said to coil and to possess a venomous bite like a snake. In fact, it wasn't until the 1200s that the first known modern dragon appears in a manuscript, a winged, four-legged, fire-breathing
Imagine
red
someone just like
dragon that
made
would
it up
become part
back in
of
like the
many
1200s.
stories.
For kingdom and glory.
But even then, the bestiaries varied by author, spawning amazing, now forgotten dragon facts like this
Rat
one.
dragon.
It was thought that dragon urine, which obviously would rain down from the sky, would putrefy human tissue upon contact. Anyway, that's just the West. Because
kinda
the East
disgusting.
has had its own distinct dragon culture maybe since the year 3000 BCE, and they're not evil at all. In fact, they're considered powerful and lucky, revered as celestial beings that could control the rain, among other aspects of reality. They were even adopted as symbols of the Chinese emperor. And while they are still largely flying serpents, the Eastern dragon is typically believed to include parts of 9 different beasts. Plus, they were known to
Eyes
change
of the
size
devil.
and shapeshift into human form, so perhaps the Witcher's gold
That's so
dragon
good.
was influenced by them as much as the West. Of course, we don't know why dragons arose in this many cultures. Scholars cite misunderstood evidence of dinosaurs or a deep fear of crocodiles. But I do
Maybe
know
that's it.
I always love to see them, which is why Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich's idea that there are gold dragon witchers that protect other dragons from humans should immediately be greenlit by my superiors at Netflix. Thank you for your consideration.
What? Okay, interesting.
Some thought that the nasty
Got the
monster
Ghoul.
whose bite poisons Geralt in the final episode was a necker, originally a dangerous type of water spirit in Northern European folklore. But Lauren confirmed for us that this was indeed a pack of ghouls we saw burrowing through the corpse-strewn battlefield. And maybe the most surprising thing I learned in the course of researching all these monsters.
I guess Ghoul is just
that
like
the
a flesh-eating
Ghoul
demon
isn't undead.
undead
What are you
monster,
doing
right?
to me, D&D's Monsters Manual? Belief in the ghoul began
Medium undead?
pre-Islam in a sort of mythological exchange between
What
the
is medium
societies
undead?
of
I mean, a
Mesopotamia
half?
and Arabian nomads. But the ghoul was probably helped along when the Hadith, a book of the Prophet's sayings, not always, but sometimes, acknowledged the creature's existence. Rather than being undead, though, they were a dangerous class of the already volatile spirits called jinn, which we saw in episode 5, remember?
That's
And as
different,
if that
though.
wasn't bad enough, they had been corrupted by Iblis, the devil of Islam, so as to exact revenge on humanity. It wasn't such a hard task considering their ability to shapeshift from their disease-bearing, clawed, animalistic forms to that of seductive women, although their hoof-like footprints could give them away. Nor were they easy to kill. You had to do it in one perfect stroke or they could come back. Ghouls prowled for travelers in forgotten places, like wastelands or derelict buildings or graveyards. But in the original incarnation, they didn't actually eat the dead. They love living human flesh, true, and strangely, there are accounts of ghouls going crazy for dates. But it's worth mentioning that the reason we all believe that ghouls eat the dead is because
Imagine
one
just
of the
see a ghoul
early
snacking on some
translators of
dates.
1001 Arabian Nights embellished, and it caught on. Of course, this is all probably rather academic if you're dying a painful death from a ghoul bite. Still, even a surly witcher would agree that it's important to know your monster. And there it is.
Yeah,
All the
'cause-
monsters that made it into The Witcher's epic first season. The only question is, what creatures do you want to see in the second season? Let us know in the comments.
Dude, I'm kind of
For
excited
me,
for the
I
second
think
season.
I want a short. Until then, happy
I
hunting.
wonder like what monsters there are in there. That was a bit of a long video. Not bad, not bad. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, check out my other YouTube channels, Twitch, Discord, and see you in the next one.